She was left to die in the desert, beaten beyond recognition, crawling through the dirt for 3 days with nothing but the will to survive and the ghost of a monster's hands around her throat. When a lone rancher found her broken, terrified, and begging God for one kind soul, neither of them knew that this single moment would change everything. What happens next is not just a story about survival. It's about what becomes possible when two shattered people decide to stop running from life and finally run toward it. This channel is home to stories of the American West tales of rugged love, quiet courage, the unbreakable bond between mother and child, and the rare, sacred moments when a stranger becomes family. The greatest thing this story reminds us being broken is never where your story has to end. If this story moved something in you, don't let it pass quietly. Leave a comment, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe so you never miss the next one.
Oh, please, she prayed to whoever might be listening, God or the devil himself. Please, just let this one be a kind man. Now, a story like this about pure evil and the will to survive deserves to be heard. So be sure to subscribe to our channel and follow Clara's fight to the very end. Let us know in the comments what town you are from. I am curious to see how far this story of justice reaches. Sam Bridger spotted the buzzards first. 3 of them circling low over a dry creek bed about a quarter-mile to the east. That usually meant one thing: something was dead or getting mighty close to it. And in the July heat, dying never took too long. He nudged his horse in their direction. At 40 years old, with 12 of them spent running this ranch by himself, Sam had learned to trust his instincts. And right then, his gut was hollering at him to ride faster. The big birds scattered as he approached. Then he saw the shape on the ground, and his heart fell clean into his boots. It was a woman, face down in the dust, not moving a bit. He was off his horse before the animal even came to a full stop. "Ma'am?" he called out. Silence. He knelt down beside her, turning her over as gently as he knew how. Good Lord. Her face was a swollen mess of purple and black, so busted up he could not even guess what she might have looked like before. Dried blood was caked in her hair, on her lips, and at the corners of her eyes. Somebody had beaten this woman to within an inch of her life. And then her chest gave a tiny little shudder. A rise and fall so shallow you could barely see it, but it was enough to tell him she was still putting up a fight. "Ma'am, can you hear me?" One of her eyes fluttered open. The other one was swollen completely shut. But that one good eye, a stormy gray-green, locked onto his face with pure, raw terror. She tried to scrabble away from him. "Easy there, little lady." Sam held his hands up, open and slow. "I am not going to hurt you." She kept trying to pull away, but her arms just gave out. She collapsed back into the dirt, sobbing without making a sound. "Now you listen to me." Sam softened his voice, the same way he would with a spooked colt. "My name is Sam Bridger. My ranch is just 4 miles from here. I'm going to take you there, get you some water, and get you out of this sun. That is all. Do you understand me?" She just stared at him, her eye wide. "I am not him." Sam said it quiet and low. "Whoever did this to you, I promise you I am not him." Something in her expression changed. It was not trust, not yet, just a weariness so deep she had no fight left. Sam scooped her into his arms. She felt like she weighed less than a sack of feed. He could feel her bones right through the tatters of her dress. They had starved her before they beat her. He settled her in his arms, mounted his horse, and spurred hard toward home. She woke up with a scream. Sam nearly dropped the bucket of water. He set it down quick and moved toward the bed, keeping his hands where she could see them. "You are safe, Clara. You are safe now." She had whispered her name to him yesterday. Clara May Hollister. She had said it like she was sure she would be dead before he could get back with the doctor. "Where?" Her voice was a dry crackle. "Where am I?" "You are at my ranch. You have been unconscious for nearly 2 days." He poured some water into a tin cup. "Just small sips now. Do not go gulping it down." She took the cup, her hands trembling something fierce. She drank it like she had not seen water in a month. She probably had not. The doctor paid a visit. Sam told her, "You have got 3 busted ribs, a shoulder that is all kinds of wrong, and enough bruises to paint a fence. But the doc says you're going to pull through." Clara put the cup down. Her good eyes scanned the small room, taking in the rough-hewn walls, the plain furniture, and the rifle leaning by the door. "Why?" she asked. "Why what? Why did you bring me here? Why did you not just leave me out there to die?" Sam pulled a wooden chair over and took a seat. "Is that what you wanted? To die out there?" "Maybe." "No, ma'am." He shook his head. "You were still crawling when I found you. Still fighting. Do not you tell me you wanted to die when your body was working so hard to stay alive." Clara looked away from him, her jaw set hard. "You do not know the first thing about me. I know somebody hurt you something awful and left you for dead in the desert. And I know you're so scared you jump every time I move a little too quick." Sam leaned in a bit. "And I reckon that whoever did this to you is probably out there looking for you right now." Her whole body went as stiff as a board. "So why do you not tell me exactly what kind of trouble we're facing here?" There was a long silence. "Clara, my husband." The words came out cold and empty. "His name is Thomas Hollister." Sam felt his own jaw tighten. "Your husband did this to you. He has done much worse." She clutched the blanket to her chin like it was a shield. "Thomas owns textile mills back east. He is a wealthy man, a powerful man. He has politicians and judges and lawmen in his pocket." She finally looked Sam square in the eye. "He owns people, Mr. Bridger, and he is convinced that he owns me. Nobody owns you. You should tell him that." A dry, bitter laugh escaped her swollen lips. "I tried to leave him. I made it all the way to Colorado before his men found me. There were 3 of them. They had their fun, and then they just tossed me out there to die a slow death." Sam shot up from his chair so fast it screeched across the wood floor. Clara flinched hard. He froze, making himself take a deep breath. "I am not mad at you," he said, his voice measured. "I am mad at the monster who did this. There is a big difference." She watched his face for a long time. "Most men do not see one. Well, I am not most men." Another quiet moment passed between them. Then Clara said, so low he almost did not hear it, "He will come here. Thomas does not let go of what he thinks belongs to him. When he learns I am still breathing, he will come, and he will kill anyone who has helped me. Let him try. You do not understand what he is capable of." "Oh, I think I understand just fine." Sam walked over to the window and stared out at the hot summer sun beating down on his land. "I have faced down war parties, outlaws, and a grizzly bear that nearly tore my arm clean off. Some fancy rich fella from back east does not put a scare in me. He should." Sam turned back to face her. "Maybe so. But you are on my land now, Clara. And out here on my land, I am the one who decides what is worth being scared of." Clara opened her mouth like she was going to argue, but then she just closed it. A little crack appeared in her tough exterior, just enough to let him see the bone-deep exhaustion hiding under all that fear. "Why are you doing this?" she whispered. "For real?" Sam's mind drifted to his own little girl, to the fever that had snatched her away from him, to the 3 long days he had spent sitting helpless at her bedside, watching her fade away. "Because I know what it feels like to need help," he said simply. "And I know what it feels like when nobody shows up." Tears welled up in Clara's eyes. She turned her face away quick, as if crying was some kind of weakness. "Thomas always said tears make you weak." Then Thomas was a damn fool. Sam offered her his handkerchief. "You go on and cry if you need to. There is nobody here who will think less of you for it." She took the cloth, pressed it to her eye, and for the first time in more years than she could count, Clara May Hollister just let herself weep. A week went by. Clara started to mend quicker than Sam figured she would. Doc Walsh said it was pure spite that was keeping her going. Clara did not deny it. "I just refused to give Thomas the satisfaction," she told Sam one morning. She had managed to walk all the way to the front porch by herself. 10 whole steps without any help. It was a small victory, but it was hers. He wanted me to crawl off into a hole and die. So I'm going to live, just to spite that man. Sam looked up from the bridle he was fixing. Spite is as good a reason as any. Better than most, I reckon. Clara carefully lowered herself into the rocking chair, hissing a little as her ribs complained. Can I ask you something personal? You can ask. The doctor mentioned you had a wife and a daughter. Sam's hand stopped moving over the leather. I'm sorry, Clara said in a rush. That is none of my business. Sarah left about 4 years back. Sam's voice was flat, without emotion. Right after Emma passed away. Emma was your daughter. She was 6. He kept his eyes fixed on the bridle in his hands. Diphtheria came through that winter. Took her in 3 days. Clara was quiet for a good long while. I'm so sorry, Sam. Do not be. It happened a long time ago. That does not mean it quit hurting. Sam finally raised his eyes to meet hers. No, ma'am. It surely does not. They sat there in a comfortable silence, just 2 people who knew that some wounds never really heal up completely. I was a nurse, Clara said after a bit, before I met Thomas, back when I thought I had my whole life figured out. What happened? I met a handsome man who told me everything I wanted to hear. Her mouth twisted into a sad smile. It is funny, is it not? How the devil always knows the perfect words. How long were you married to him? 6 years. She held up a hand, ticking off the years on her fingers. The first year I made excuses for him. He was under a lot of stress. He did not mean it. The second year I learned to keep my mouth shut. The third year I learned how to be invisible. The fourth, fifth, and sixth. She let her hand fall into her lap. I do not remember much about them, except for just trying to survive. What finally made you run? He tried to kill me. She said it plain as day, like she was talking about the weather. Last month I said something that set him off. To this day I do not know what it was, but he just snapped. He beat me until I could not get up, and then he put his hands around my throat. Sam's knuckles went white as he gripped the piece of leather. I saw it in his eyes, Clara went on, her voice steady. He was going to finish the job right there in our own bedroom. The only reason I am alive is because our maid walked in right then. She let out a bitter little laugh. I owe my entire life to a girl who earns $2 a week. So you ran. I ran. I did not pack a single thing. I had no plan. I just got on the first train that was heading west. She gazed out at the distant mountains. I honestly thought I could just vanish, start a new life somewhere he would never look. She shook her head. What a fool I was. It is not foolish to want something better for yourself. It is when you are married to a man like Thomas Hollister. Clara looked right at him. He will find me, Sam. He always does. And when he comes for me, when he comes, I will be ready for him. You keep saying that. Keep saying, because I keep meaning it. Clara studied his face, the lines weathered by the sun, those steady eyes, the jaw that looked like it was carved from granite. You are either the bravest man I have ever met, or the biggest fool. Probably a little of both. A ghost of a smile touched Sam's lips. My daddy always said I had more stubbornness than sense. Sounds like a smart man. He was, right up until a horse threw him when I was 12. Sam put the bridle aside. The point is, I have been taking care of myself and this piece of land for a long, long time. I know every rock and every trail in these mountains, every place a man can hide. If your husband shows up here with an entire army, I will know they are coming before they ever get within 5 miles. And after that, I will do what has to be done. Clara was silent for a spell. Then she spoke softly. I do not want you to get killed on my account. I am not planning on dying for anyone. Sam got to his feet and stretched. I am planning on living, and I am planning on you doing the same thing. He started walking toward the corral, but he stopped when he heard Clara's voice. Sam! He turned around. Thank you. Her voice was just a little more than a whisper, "for not acting like I am broken." "You are not broken, Clara. You are just bent." He tipped his hat, and things that are bent can be straightened out with a little time. He walked off before she could say anything back, before she could notice how much it cost him to say those words. Because the honest truth was Sam Bridger had been bent for 4 years. And until Clara appeared, half dead on his land, he had given up believing he could ever be straight again. After 2 weeks, Clara was firm about earning her keep. "I am not a charity case," she said, with her hands planted on her hips. "I can cook, clean, and I know a thing or two about medicine. Put me to work. You have 3 broken ribs. 2. One was just cracked, and it is almost mended." She shot him a hard look. "I am not about to sit here feeling useless while you do all the work." Sam recognized that look. He had seen it on a horse right before it kicked its way through a fence. "All right," he said. "You can handle the cooking, but if you get hurt, I will take care of it." She was already on her way to the kitchen. "And Sam, I am cooking some real food tonight. I have seen what you have been trying to live on. It is a wonder you are still breathing." That night, Sam sat down to the best meal he had eaten in 4 long years. There was roast chicken, fresh biscuits, and a gravy that tasted like it came from a fancy city restaurant. "Where did you learn to cook like this?" "My mother." Clara sat on the other side of the table, barely touching her own food. She always said a good meal could fix just about anything. She might have been right about that. They finished their meal in a comfortable quiet. When they were done, Clara reached for his plate. "Leave it," Sam said. "I will handle the cleaning." "You did the cooking." "That is not how it works, Clara." He gently took her by the wrist. She flinched, but she did not pull away from him. "Just let somebody take care of you for a change. It is not a sign of weakness to let someone help you." She looked down at their hands, his large and calloused, hers small and marked with scars. Bit by bit, the tightness in her shoulders began to relax. "I do not know how to do that anymore," she confessed. "Thomas made me depend on him for everything, and then he would punish me for it. That is not care. That is control. I see that now." She slowly pulled her hand free, but knowing something and feeling it are 2 different things. Sam nodded his head. "Yes, they sure are." He picked up the dishes and walked over to the wash basin. From behind him, he heard Clara's quiet voice. "Sam, you are a good man. I know you may not think so, but you are." He did not turn around. He did not dare to speak because the last person who ever called him a good man was his daughter. And hearing those words again from this woman he hardly knew cracked something wide open inside his chest that he had spent 4 long years trying to keep locked away. During the 3rd week, Clara discovered the photograph. She was not trying to snoop. She was just dusting the mantelpiece while Sam was out checking on the fences. The frame was made of old wood tucked away behind a cracked vase as if someone was trying to hide it. It showed a woman with kind eyes and dark hair, holding a little girl who had Sam's stubborn chin. "That is Sarah and Emma." Clara spun around. Sam was standing in the doorway with his hat in his hands. "I am so sorry," she said in a rush. "I was not." "I know." He came over and took the frame out of her hands, staring at it for a long while. "We took this about a month before Emma fell ill. Sarah wanted a family picture for Christmas. She is beautiful. They both are." "Where?" Sam put the photo back on the mantel. He placed it facing out this time. Emma would have been 10 years old this year. Clara did not say she was sorry again. Words like that were no help. What was she like? The hardness in Sam's face softened just a little bit. "She was stubborn as a mule and twice as noisy. She used to follow me all over this place, out to the barn, into the fields. It drove Sarah plumb crazy." The shadow of a smile touched his lips. "She wanted to be a horse trainer. She used to say she was going to own the biggest ranch in all of Colorado. She sounds wonderful." "She was." His voice hitched. "She was the very best part of me." Clara reached out a hand and laid it on his arm. He did not pull back. "She would be proud of you, Sam. What you are doing for me, a total stranger, that is not a small thing. This is not about being proud. Then what is it about? Sam looked right at her. Really looked. And in that moment, for the first time, Clara saw beyond the quiet rancher, past the sorrow, and through the walls he had built up around his heart. She saw a man who was drowning, who had been drowning for 4 years, and who had grabbed hold of her like she was the first solid ground he had felt. "I do not know anymore," he admitted. "I thought I did. I thought I was just helping out someone who was in a bad way. But now?" He stopped and shook his head. "Now what?" Clara pushed him. "Now I wake up in the morning thinking about you. I go to bed at night thinking about you. I work all day long just to have a good reason to come back and see you at supper." He let out a bitter laugh. "For 4 years I did not feel a single thing. Then you show up on my land, half dead, and all of a sudden I am. Sam, I know this is crazy. I know you just escaped from hell itself, and the last thing on earth you need is some broken-down rancher with more baggage than a train station. I am not asking for a thing. I just... Sam!" Clara moved in closer, close enough to touch him. "Just be quiet." And he was quiet. "I spent 6 years with a man who used pretty words just to hurt me," she said in a low voice. "You stumble over every single sentence like you are worried you will say the wrong thing. Do you know what that tells me? That I am not much of a talker. It tells me that you mean every word you say." She raised her hand and gently touched his face. He shut his eyes like her touch was painful. "I am not ready for anything. I do not know if I will ever be, but if I were..." She took in a sharp breath. "If I were, it would be with a man like you." Sam opened his eyes. "A man like me? Someone who really sees me? Not what I can do for him. Not what he can take from me. Just me." Her voice got quieter. "Nobody has really seen me in a very long time, Sam." "I see you," he said, his voice rough with emotion. "I see you, Clara." For a second, neither of them moved a muscle. The summer wind blew in through the open window, bringing with it the smell of sagebrush and wildflowers. Then Clara took a step back. "We should stop," she said, "before we start something we are not ready for." "Yeah." Sam cleared his throat. "Yeah, you are right." But neither one of them looked away. The rider showed up as the sun was setting. Sam noticed the cloud of dust first, a single horse moving at a fast pace from the east. He snatched his rifle and ordered Clara to get back inside. "Like hell," she said, pulling the pistol from the drawer. "Clara, I am telling you, I know how to shoot." Her jaw was set hard. "If Thomas sent somebody, I am not going to hide in here while you go out and face them by yourself." Sam wanted to argue, but he saw the look in her eyes and knew it was no use. "Stay right behind me," he said, "and do not shoot unless I give the word." They stood waiting on the porch as the rider got closer. Sam's finger was resting on the trigger. The horse slowed down. The rider lifted both of his hands high in the air. "Do not shoot. I am just bringing a message." He was just a kid. He could not have been more than 16, and he was scared out of his wits. Sam lowered the rifle just a little. "Who sent you?" "A man back in town. He paid me $5 to bring this to you." The boy held out a piece of folded paper. "He said you would want to see it right away." Sam took the paper from him. The kid turned his horse and took off like the devil himself was on his tail. Clara came up beside him. "What is it?" Sam opened it up. He read it over twice. A chill ran through his blood. "Sam, what is wrong?" He passed the paper to her. Clara read the words, and every bit of color drained from her face. "I know where you are. I am coming." Clara's hands were shaking so badly she almost dropped the letter. "He found me." Her voice sounded empty. "I knew he would. I told you he would." Sam took the paper back from her, reading it again as if the words might have changed. They had not. "When was this sent?" "I do not know. There is no date on it." Clara hugged her arms around herself. It could have been yesterday. It could have been a week ago. He could get here tomorrow, Sam. He could get here tonight. He is not getting here tonight. Sam crushed the letter in his fist. It takes at least 3 days to get out here from the closest telegraph office. And that is if you are riding hard. We have some time. Run for what? Clara gave a bitter laugh. I have been running for 2 months now. Look at the good it did me. It is time I got ready. Sam put his hands on her shoulders, his touch gentle, but solid. You look at me. Clara looked up at him. She met his gaze straight on. I am not going to let him take you. Do you understand me? Whatever walks through that gate is going to have to go through me first. That is exactly what I'm afraid of. Tears streamed down her face. You will get yourself killed for me. And then what happens? He still wins. He just drags me back to Philadelphia and does what he planned to do all along. And your death will mean nothing at all. My death is not in the plan. Plans do not mean a thing to a man like Thomas. He does not follow the rules. He just makes up new ones. Clara pulled herself away from his grasp. I ought to leave here tonight. If I am already gone when he shows up, maybe he will just come after me and leave you be. And maybe he will burn this whole place to the ground just for the spite of it. Sam moved to block the door. You are not going anywhere. You cannot make me stay. Just watch me. They stood facing each other, both breathing hard, neither one of them willing to give an inch. The Texas summer heat pushed in through the windows like it was a living creature. Why? Clara finally demanded. Why do you care this much? We have only known each other for 3 weeks. I am a stranger to you. You are not a stranger. Then what am I? What am I to you, Sam? The question just hung there in the thick air between them. Sam's jaw clenched like he was trying to chew on words that were too tough to swallow. You are the first thing I've given a damn about in 4 years, he finally said. The first thing that made me think maybe I'm not just sitting here waiting to die. Is that reason enough for you? Clara just stared at him. That is not fair. None of this is fair. But it is the truth. He took a step closer to her. I am not asking you to love me. I am not asking you for a single thing. I am just telling you why I am going to stand and fight for you, whether you want me to or not. And if I lose, then I lose fighting for something that matters. His voice got quieter. That is a whole lot more than I had yesterday. Clara squeezed her eyes shut. When she opened them again, something in her expression had changed. The fear was still there, but underneath it, a core of steel had formed. Fine, she said. We will fight, but we are going to do it smart. Tell me everything you know about this land, every last hiding place, every little advantage. If Thomas wants a war, we will give him one he is not expecting. Sam almost cracked a smile. Now you are talking. They stayed up for half the night making their plans. Sam drew maps in the dirt on the cabin floor, showing Clara where the trails got narrow, where a man could lay in wait and pick off riders one by one. Clara asked questions, sharp and tactical, and Sam remembered she had spent 6 years surviving a monster. She understood how predators think. He will bring men with him, she said. At least 4 or 5. Thomas never does his own dirty work. Hired guns? Probably. Pinkertons, I would guess. The kind of men who do not ask questions as long as the pay is good. Can they shoot? Better than most folks. Clara drew a line on the dirt map with her finger. But they will not know this land. That is our advantage. It is our only advantage, Sam muttered under his breath. It is enough. Clara looked right at him. My father was a hunter before he took sick. He taught me that knowing your ground is more important than how many guns you have. A smart man on his own turf can take down an entire hunting party if he has got the patience. Your father sounds like a man I would have liked to know. He would have liked you too. Clara's voice went soft. He always said you can judge a man's true character by how he treats people who cannot do a thing for him. Sam did not know what to say to that, so he just stayed quiet. They worked until the dawn started painting the sky orange and pink. By then, they had a plan. It was not a perfect plan, but it was something. You need to get some sleep, Sam said. I have got to ride into town. For what? To get supplies, more ammunition. He paused for a moment. And I need to go see some people. What people? People who owe me a favor or two. He grabbed his hat from the peg. You stay inside. Keep that rifle handy. If anyone comes up that road, you hide first, and you worry about questions later. Clara grabbed his arm as he turned to leave. Sam, yeah, you come back. It was not a request, it was a plea. I will, he said. I promise you that. He rode out while the sun was still climbing the sky. Clara watched him go from the window, the rifle resting across her lap, and she tried her best not to think about all the ways a promise could get broken. The town of Miller's Creek was not much to look at. It had a main street with a general store, a saloon, a church, and a few other buildings that looked like a strong wind might carry them off. But it had people. And right then, Sam needed people. He found Doc Walsh first. I need you to do me a favor, Sam said, not wasting any time on pleasantries. The old doctor looked up at him over his coffee cup. This has something to do with that woman you have been keeping out at your place. Word gets around pretty fast. It is a small town. Doc Walsh pointed to the empty chair across from his table. Sit down. Tell me just what kind of trouble you have gotten yourself into. Sam told him everything. He told him about the beating, the husband, and the letter. When he finished, Doc Walsh sat there quietly for a long time. You are asking me to help you fight a rich man with powerful friends, the doctor said slowly. A man who could ruin every single person in this town if he took a mind to it. I am asking you to help me protect an innocent woman from a man who wants to kill her. It is the same thing from where I am sitting. Sam leaned forward across the table. Henry, you have known me for 15 years. You delivered my Emma. You sat with me when she passed away. Have I ever asked you for a single thing before? No, you have not. Well, I am asking now. Doc Walsh let out a long sigh. He took off his spectacles, cleaned them on his shirt, and put them back on. What is it you need? Information. If any strangers come into town, asking about me or about Clara, I need to know about it. Their names, how many of them there are, which way they are headed. That is all for now. The old doctor nodded his head slowly. I can do that for you. But Sam, he said, catching Sam's arm as he stood up to leave, you be careful. Rich men do not fight fair. They do not have to. Neither do I. Not anymore. Sam made 3 more stops. He went to the blacksmith who had helped him raise his barn. He visited the widow who ran the boarding house and heard every piece of gossip worth hearing. And he saw the half-Cheyenne tracker who lived up in the hills and owed Sam his life after a blizzard 6 years ago. By noon, he had a network of eyes and ears. It was not much, but it would have to be enough. He was tying supplies onto his horse when a voice stopped him cold. Sam Bridger. He turned around. 2 men were standing in the middle of the street. They wore city clothes and had hard eyes. They were the kind of men who smiled right before they hurt you. Who is asking? The taller of the 2 stepped forward. We are looking for a woman named Clara Hollister. Her husband is mighty worried about her. I do not know anyone by that name. That is funny. The shorter man pulled out a photograph. It was Clara, all dressed up with her hair fixed, looking like a completely different person. Because we heard she has been staying out at your place. Sam's hand moved slowly toward his side. You heard wrong. Did we? The tall man smiled. See, we have been on her trail for 2 months. She is a clever one. I will give her that. But she makes mistakes, like using her real name at a boarding house down in Colorado Springs. Like I said, I do not know her. Mr. Hollister is offering a reward. The short man took another step toward him. $500 for information that leads to her safe return. That is a whole lot of money for a rancher. I am not interested in your money. Everybody is interested in money. Not me. Sam untied his horse's reins. Now, if you gentlemen will excuse me, I have got work to do. Mr. Bridger. The tall one's voice went hard. Thomas Hollister is a powerful man. He is a generous man to his friends, but his enemies. He shook his head slowly. His enemies seemed to have accidents, real bad ones. Sam swung up into his saddle and looked down at the two men. "Tell your boss something for me," he said, his voice quiet. "You tell him if he wants Clara, he's going to have to come get her himself, and tell him to bring more than 2 city fellas in fancy suits." He rode out of town before they could answer, but he could feel their eyes on his back all the way to the town line. Clara was waiting on the porch when he rode in. She stood up quick, rifle in her hands, then lowered it when she saw it was him. "I heard horses," I thought. "It is just me." Sam dismounted and began to unload his supplies. "But we have got a problem." "What kind of problem?" "The kind that comes with guns and a lot of questions." He told her about the 2 men he had met in town. He watched her face turn pale and then hard as stone. "Pinkertons," she said. "They are Thomas's favorites. They have probably already sent him a wire saying they found me. How long do you think we have before he gets here?" "A week, maybe less. He will want to handle this part himself." Her voice was full of bitterness. "Thomas likes to watch people suffer. He would not trust that job to hired help." Sam carried the last of the supplies into the cabin. "Then we have got a week to get ready." "Sam." Clara followed him inside. "Those men, they're going to come back with more people." "I know it. We cannot fight off an army. We will not have to." Sam set the ammunition box on the table and turned to her. "I talked to some folks in town. Good folks. They are going to watch the roads for us, let us know when any strangers are coming. And I've got a tracker friend up in the hills who can see things long before they happen. You have friends." In spite of it all, Sam almost laughed. "Do not sound so surprised. I am sorry. It is just." Clara shook her head. "Thomas always told me I did not have anyone, that no one would ever help me if I left him, that I was all alone in this world." "You are not alone." Sam walked over to her. "Sam, you have got me, and you have got a whole town that is about to stand between you and that bastard. They do not even know me. They know me, and that is enough." Clara stared up at him. Her eyes were wet, but she was not crying. "Not really. I do not understand you," she whispered. "Any of this. I spent 6 years of my life being told I was worthless, that no one would ever choose me, that I ought to be grateful for what little I had. Then I come here, and you," her voice broke, "you act like I'm somebody worth dying for. Maybe you are. That is not me. I am just a woman who picked the wrong path and paid the price." "You did not pick the wrong path." Sam gently took her hand. She did not pull away. "You put your faith in a man who was not worthy of it. That is a whole different story, is it not?" "No." He gave her fingers a soft squeeze. "We all put our trust in the wrong person now and again. Trusting is not the mistake. The mistake is taking the blame for another person's wickedness." Clara stood silent for a good long while. Then she moved close and put her arms around his waist. Sam went completely still for a second. Then, ever so slowly, he allowed himself to embrace her. "Thank you," she whispered into his shirt, "for seeing something in me that I cannot see in myself. Well, that is what friends do for each other." She eased back just a bit, her stormy gray eyes looking up at him. "Is that what we are? Friends?" A lump formed in Sam's throat. "I cannot rightly say what we are, Clara. All I know for sure is I will not let any harm come to you. And if I am the one who gets hurt, you get on my horse and head north. You will find a town called Silverton about a 3-day ride from here. Fine folks there. They will give you a place. I am done with running." "Clara." "No." Her expression hardened. "If you are making a stand to fight, then I am making a stand right here with you. We face this side by side, or we do not face it at all." Sam felt the urge to protest. He wanted to lift her onto that horse and send her towards safety, whether she wanted to go or not. But he looked into her eyes and saw a fire he recognized all too well. She was finished being someone's victim. "Together," he finally said. "But when the bullets start flying, you listen to what I say. No second thoughts. No second thoughts." She paused for a moment. I have one condition. And what is that? Show me how to shoot better. Sam blinked in surprise. You told me your father taught you. He taught me how to hunt deer, not how to face men. Clara's voice took on a sharp edge. If Thomas walks through that doorway, I want to be the one who puts a bullet right between his eyes. Sam looked closely at her face. The bruises had started to fade, but the wounds deep inside, the kind no one could ever see, they were still raw. All right then, he said. We will begin in the morning. They were up at first light. Clara handled a pistol better than Sam had figured. Her grip was firm, her aim was steady, and the sound of the gunshot did not make her jump. Her only problem was that she was too slow. You are overthinking it, Sam explained after her fifth shot missed its mark. In the time it takes you to line up your shot, a man with a gun has already fired back. So how do I get quicker? You have to feel it. He stepped in behind her and shifted her posture. Do not stare at the target. Look right through it. Let your hands do what they know how to do. She took another shot. It was closer, but still not quick enough. Again, Sam instructed. They kept at it until her arms were sore and her ears were ringing. After 3 days of practice, Clara could draw her weapon and fire in under 2 seconds. It was not the speed of a seasoned gunfighter, but it would have to be enough. You will do, Sam told her. That is high praise. It is the highest I can give. He put his own gun away. Now, we need to talk about what to do if you cannot use your gun. What are you talking about? I'm talking about a situation where they get too close and they take your pistol from you. Sam slid a knife out from his boot. The men with Thomas are bigger and stronger than you are. You will not come out on top in a straight-up fight, so I need to fight dirty. That is exactly right. He passed the knife to her. You aim for the eyes, the throat, or down below. Anywhere that is soft, anywhere that will cause pain. You will only get one shot at it, so you have to make it matter. Clara held the knife, feeling its heft in her hand. Thomas always said I was too frail to ever hurt anybody. Thomas was mistaken about a great many things. Yes. Clara gazed up at him. He certainly was. That evening they sat together on the porch and watched the sun dip below the horizon. The intense summer heat had finally given way to a cool breeze that blew in the scent of coming rain from the mountains. There is a storm brewing, Sam commented. That is good. It might slow them down a bit. It might. He turned his head to look at her. Are you afraid? I am scared down to my bones. Clara kept her eyes fixed on the distant skyline. But this feels different. I used to be afraid of him. Now I am just afraid of losing this, whatever it is we have found. She motioned between the two of them. 3 weeks ago, I was left to die in the dust. Now I am sitting on this porch with a man who makes me believe that maybe I am not as broken as I thought. Her voice became quiet. That is something worth being afraid to lose. Sam was quiet for a long time. The sky shifted from a fiery orange to a deep purple, and then to a starless black. When all of this is behind us, he said at last, what is it that you want? I do not know. I have not dared to think that far into the future. Give it a try, Clara thought for a moment. Peace and quiet. A place where I do not have to be constantly looking over my shoulder. She hesitated. And maybe someone to share that peace with. Someone who does not want to possess me. Just wants to be with me. That does not sound like too much to ask for. It was never supposed to be. She shifted to face him. What about you, Sam? What do you want? He thought of Sarah. He thought of Emma. He thought of the 4 years of emptiness and that new frightening feeling that had been taking root in his heart ever since he found Clara bleeding on the ground. The same thing, I suppose. Some peace, a purpose, and someone to call home. We are quite the pair, Clara said softly. 2 damaged souls searching for a way to be whole again. Maybe that is the only way it can happen. Maybe you cannot become whole until you accept that you have been broken. Clara reached out and took his hand in hers. He did not pull away. They sat together in the growing darkness with their fingers woven together, as storm clouds gathered far away and a hidden danger rode toward them in the night. The tracker arrived 4 days later. His name was Joseph Walking Crow, and he materialized at sunrise like an apparition, his horse moving without a single sound. Sam could already hear. "Riders are on their way," Joseph said, skipping any greeting. "6 of them. About 2 days out, maybe a little less." A knot formed in Sam's stomach. "Are you certain?" "I am certain. I have been tracking them since they left the main road. They are city men with expensive guns. One of them has been asking questions in every town from here to Denver. Another one is older, wears fine clothes, and rides like he thinks he owns the very dirt he is on." Joseph's gaze was unreadable. "Is he the one you're concerned about?" "That is the one." Clara had stepped out onto the porch behind them. Her face was pale. "Thomas," she whispered. "He came himself." "I told you he would." Joseph looked from Sam to Clara. "What is it you need me to do?" Sam thought it over. "Keep an eye on them. Tell me if they separate or change their path, and if they ride straight for this ranch. Do you want me to slow them down for you? Are you able to?" A faint smile touched Joseph's weathered lips. "I can make life in these mountains very difficult for men from the city, but I will not take a life unless I am forced to." "That is fair." Sam reached out and gripped his forearm. "I thank you, Joseph. I will not forget this. You saved my life once before. This makes us even." Joseph mounted his horse in one fluid motion. "Be prepared. They are coming here with blood on their minds." He had vanished before Sam could say another word. Clara walked down the porch steps. 2 days. That is not nearly enough time. "It will have to be." Sam took her by the arm. "Come on now. We have got a lot of work to do." They used the next 48 hours to get ready. Sam laid traps along the path leading to the ranch. They were not deadly, just enough to spook the horses and put the men on edge. Clara gathered all the medical items she could find: bandages, rubbing alcohol, a needle, and some thread. "Are you expecting somebody to get injured?" Sam asked. "I am preparing for the worst outcome and praying for a better one." Clara put the items neatly into a satchel. "My father always said, 'You speak of your father a good deal. He was a wise man.'" She fastened the bag. "He also told me that the right time to get ready for a catastrophe is before it arrives. Afterwards, it is just too late." Sam found no fault in that logic. On the night before Thomas was due to arrive, neither of them could find any sleep. They sat across from each other at the kitchen table with a bottle of whiskey between them that remained untouched. The rifle stood ready by the door. Clara's pistol was settled on her hip. "Tell me something," Clara said out of the blue. "What is it?" "Anything at all." "Something about you that I do not know." Sam considered it for a moment. "When I was 12 years old, I stole a horse." "You did what?" "There was a fellow in our town, a truly mean-spirited man. He would beat his animals until they could barely stand. One afternoon, I saw his mare tied up in front of the saloon. Her ribs were showing right through her hide. She had whip marks all down her back." Sam gave a slight shrug. "So I just took her. And what happened? My father took a strap to me when he found out. He told me that stealing was a sin no matter what the reason." Sam's jaw grew tight. "But he never made me return her. We kept her safe in our barn for 2 years until she passed on. She was the finest horse I ever knew." Clara managed a smile. "It was a small thing, but it was genuine. You have been taking in strays for your entire life, have you not?" "I would not say that. I would." She reached over the table and laid her hand on his. "Sam, no matter what comes tomorrow, nothing is going to happen. Just let me finish." She squeezed his fingers gently. "Whatever comes, I want you to understand that these last few weeks have been the best I've ever known. That is not insignificant. It is not a small thing. You have given me back something that Thomas tried for 6 years to beat out of me. And what is that? Hope. Her voice trembled. You gave me hope again. Sam turned his hand over and laced his fingers through hers. Well then, he said, let us make sure that hope was not for nothing. Let us get through this alive together. Together. Clara whispered in agreement. They did not find sleep that night, but they also did not release their hold on one another. The dawn arrived slowly, painting the sky a dull gray, heavy with clouds that refused to break. Sam was inspecting the rifle for the third time when he heard the sound. The thud of hoofbeats, far off at first, but drawing nearer. Clara materialized at his side. Her face was ashen, but her hand was perfectly still where it rested on her pistol. They are here, she stated. Yes. Sam drew a deep breath. Remember what I told you. If things start to go wrong, I am not running, Sam. I told you I am not running. She looked him straight in the eye. We will face this together. You gave me your word. Sam wanted to protest, but the time for that had passed. The riders appeared over the crest of the hill, 6 of them, just as Joseph had said. 5 men in long dusters with pistols at their sides, and right at the front, sitting high on a black stallion, was a man in a fine coat with silver hair and eyes as cold as a winter sky. Thomas Hollister had arrived to take back his wife. Sam stepped down from the porch, his rifle held ready. That is close enough. Thomas Hollister lifted one gloved hand, and his men reined in their horses. He smiled like a man who had just arrived at a dinner party, not a confrontation. Mr. Bridger, I presume. His voice was smooth and educated, the voice of a man who had never been told no in his life. I have heard a great deal about you. I wish I could say the same about you. Oh, I seriously doubt that. Thomas's gaze slid past Sam toward the cabin. Hello, Clara. You have certainly led me on a long chase. Clara stepped out onto the porch. Her hand was resting on her pistol, but her voice was steady. I am not going back with you, Thomas. Of course you are, my dear. This little escapade of yours has been entertaining, but it is time for you to come home. He glanced around the ranch with open disgust. You surely do not prefer this little shack to all the things I provided for you. You gave me bruises and you gave me broken bones. You gave me nightmares. You gave me 6 years of pure hell. Clara lifted her chin. I would rather live in a hovel than spend one more day as your wife. Thomas's smile never faded, but something icy flickered deep in his eyes. You see, Mr. Bridger, this is the kind of thing that happens when you humor a woman's fantasies. They begin to think they actually have a choice in things. He snapped his fingers. Boys, fetch my wife. 2 of his fellas got off their horses. Sam's rifle sang out. Dirt kicked up 6 inches from the nearest man's boot. Everybody went still as a stone. The next one is going right through your chest, Sam said, his voice low and steady. Both of you get back on your horses, right now. The men glanced over at Thomas. Thomas's jaw muscle jumped, but you'd hardly notice. You are making a terrible mistake, Mr. Bridger. Well, it would not be my first one. Do you have any earthly idea who I am? What I am capable of doing to you? I know exactly what kind of man you are. Sam took a single step forward. You are the kind of man who hits women because he is not man enough to face someone his own size. You are a coward hiding behind your money and your hired guns, and as of right now you are standing on my land without an invitation. Thomas's face got dark. I have 3 judges in Philadelphia in my pocket. I own senators. I could have you arrested for taking her. I could see you hang. You would have to get me to Philadelphia first, and I do not think you brought enough men to do that. One of Thomas's hired men let out a short, ugly laugh. Boss, there is just one of him and 5 of us. You just have to say the word. Sam kept his eyes locked on Thomas. Tell your boy to count one more time. He seems to have missed the one behind you. The men whipped around. Joseph Walking Crow was standing on the ridge right behind them, his rifle aimed square at the group. They never heard him get there. Nobody ever did. My friend up yonder, he is what the Cheyenne people call a ghost warrior, Sam went on. He could put a bullet in every last one of you before you even cleared leather, and even if he could not. Sam gave a cold smile. I only need to shoot one person. His rifle moved just a bit, pointing straight at Thomas's heart. The silence hung heavy in the air. Sam could hear his own heart beating, slow and even. He had felt this same feeling back in the old days. That moment, right before the violence, when everything in the world becomes simple. Thomas was thinking, weighing his options. Sam saw it plain in his eyes. The man was a hunter, but he was also a smart one. He was smart enough to know when the odds had turned against him. All right, Mr. Bridger. Thomas put both his hands up. Perhaps we started off on the wrong foot. I am a man of reason. Surely we can reach some kind of agreement. The only agreement I am interested in is you getting on your horse and never setting foot here again. That is not going to happen. Thomas's voice turned hard as iron. Clara is my wife. She belongs to me. She does not belong to anyone but herself. The law would say differently. Well, then, the law is wrong. Thomas laughed. A real laugh, like Sam had just told the funniest joke in the world. You folks out here on the frontier, so charmingly simple. He shook his head. Let me explain to you how the real world operates. In the real world, men like me are the ones who make the rules. Men like you just follow them, and women like Clara. He gave her a look that might have passed for affection, if it was not so full of ownership. Women like Clara learn to do as they are told. Clara's hand grew tight around her pistol. I'm finished doing what I'm told. Are you really? Because I seem to remember you saying that once before. It was right before I had to give you a lesson in obedience. Thomas's voice got low and ugly. Did you tell your cowboy friend what happened the last time, Clara? Did you tell him how you begged me? Clara's face turned white as a sheet. Did you tell him how you crawled on the floor, crying your eyes out and pleading for me to stop? How you promised you would be good, promised you would never defy me again? Thomas smiled a cruel smile. Did you tell him that you thanked me afterward for the correction? Shut your mouth. Clara's voice was a broken whisper. She always thanks me, Mr. Bridger. That is the thing you have to understand about Clara. She understands her place in the world. She just needs a little reminder now and then. Sam moved before he even thought about it. One second he was standing by the porch, the next he was yanking Thomas right off his horse and throwing him down in the dust. Thomas's men started to draw their guns. Joseph's rifle cracked from the ridge. One man yelled out, grabbing his hand where a bullet had passed clean through it. The next one will kill you. Joseph's voice echoed down. Stay put. Sam stood over Thomas, breathing heavy. The man was a mess in the dirt, his expensive coat covered in dust, his perfect composure finally shattered. Get up, Sam said. You just made the biggest mistake of your entire life. I said, get up. Thomas got to his feet slowly. A little blood was on his lip where his face had hit a rock. For the very first time, a flicker of real fear showed in his eyes. You think you are the first man who has ever threatened me? He hissed. You think I have not dealt with your kind before? I will ruin you. I will burn this entire ranch to the ground. I will... Sam hit him, hard. Thomas fell down again, spitting out blood. That one is for Clara. He hit him another time. That is for every woman you will ever think about hurting again. And that one is because I have been wanting to hit something for 4 years. And you are the first thing I have found that is worth hitting. Thomas curled up in a ball with his arms over his head and started to whimper. His men just watched, frozen between their own guns and Joseph's rifle on the ridge. Clara walked down from the porch. She stood right over her husband, looking down at the man who had made her life a nightmare for 6 long years. You always told me I was weak, she said softly, that I could not make it without you, that nobody would ever want me, ever help me, or ever see me as anything more than your property. Thomas looked up at her, his eyes already swelling shut. Clara, please. You were wrong. She knelt down beside him. I survived all your beatings. I survived you leaving me for dead out in the desert. I survive because I am stronger than you ever gave me credit for. I am your husband. You are nothing to me now." Clara's voice was perfectly steady. "You are just a scared little man who hurts people because that is the only way you know how to feel. Powerful. And I am done being afraid of you." She got to her feet. "Sam, let him go." Sam stared at her. "What did you say? Let him go. Him and his boys. Let them ride on out of here. Clara, he will just come back. He will not ever stop. Oh, yes, he will." Clara locked her gaze on Thomas. "Because I have got something he wants more than he wants me." Thomas froze up right then and there. "What in the world are you talking about?" Clara reached inside her pocket and brought out a small leather-bound book. The blood drained right out of Thomas's face. "I found this in your study the night I ran away. I did not know what it was at first, but I've had plenty of time to read it since. Names, dates, how much money, every single bribe you have ever paid, every judge you have got in your pocket, every politician you own." Clara gave him a cold smile. "I have already made copies, Thomas. They are with folks you cannot get to." "If anything at all happens to me or to Sam, those copies are going to every newspaper in this country. You are bluffing." "Am I?" Clara cocked her head. "You taught me a good many things when we were married, Thomas. How to be invisible. How to figure out what a man wants. How to be ready for the worst." She held the journal up. "But you never did teach me to be a fool." Thomas looked at her as if he was seeing a complete stranger. The woman standing before him was not the scared wife he had beat down. She was something else entirely. "You would not dare just watch me." The silence hung heavy in the air. Thomas's men started shifting on their feet, getting nervous. Even Joseph up there on the ridge seemed to be holding his breath. Finally, Thomas let out a laugh. It was a broken, bitter kind of sound. "Well played, Clara. I always knew you were smarter than you let on." He pushed himself up, wiping blood from his chin. "Fine. You can keep your cowboy. You can keep this pathetic little patch of dirt. But do not you think for a second this is over. It is over." Clara took a step toward him. "I am going to file for a divorce, Thomas. And you are not going to put up a fight. You are not going to send lawyers or Pinkertons or anybody else after me. You are just going to sign the papers and let me walk away. Or what? You will ruin me? I will destroy you." Clara's voice dropped to a low whisper. "Everything you have built, everything you own, every friendship you have ever made, I will burn it all to the ground, and I will make damn sure everybody knows exactly the kind of man you are." Thomas's jaw was tight. He looked at Sam, then up at Joseph on the ridge, then at his own man still holding his bleeding hand. "You think you have won," he said, his voice quiet. "But you have not. People like me, we do not lose. We just wait." Then Clara smiled. "I have got all the time in the world." Thomas turned to his men. "Mount up. We are leaving." "But boss," the man with the hurt hand started to say. "I said get on your horses." They did as they were told. Sam kept his rifle steady until every last one of them was in the saddle. Thomas looked down at Clara one last time. "You are going to regret this. I already regret 6 years of my life. This will not even make the list." Thomas yanked his horse around and spurted into a gallop. His men trailed right behind him. Sam watched them go until they were just a cloud of dust on the horizon. Then he saw Clara's knees give out. Sam caught her just before she hit the dirt. She was shaking so hard he could feel it right through to his own bones. "You did it," he whispered. "You stood right up to him. You won. I thought I was going to be sick. But you were not." "No," Clara managed a weak laugh. "No, I was not." Joseph came riding down from the ridge. He looked at Clara with a look that might have been respect. "You have the heart of a warrior," he told her. "He will not forget that." "Will he be back?" Joseph thought for a moment. Men like him, they are like a wounded cat. Sometimes they run off. Sometimes they come back looking to bite. He looked over at Sam. "Keep your eyes open." "I will." Joseph gave a single nod, then turned his horse and rode off into the hills. Sam helped Clara get onto the porch. She sat down with a thud, still trembling all over. "I cannot believe that actually worked. I was making up half of it. The journal, that is real enough. But the copies?" Clara just shook her head. I never had the time to make any copies. I just prayed he would believe that I did. Sam stared at her, amazed. You bluffed him. I spent 6 years learning that man. I know what he is scared of more than anything. Clara looked down at the little book in her hands. He is terrified of being shamed in public, of people seeing who he truly is. As long as this thing exists, he will not risk it. What if he calls your bluff? Then I will make good on my promise. Clara's voice turned hard as stone. I was not lying about that part. If he ever comes back, I will destroy him. Sam sat down next to her. His own hands were still trembling from the adrenaline, from the strain of not killing Thomas Hollister when he had the chance. I wanted to kill him, he admitted in a low voice. When he was on the ground, I wanted to just keep hitting him until he was not moving anymore. Why did you not? Because you asked me not to. Sam met her gaze. And because I do not want to be the kind of man who kills someone in front of the woman he stopped short. Clara went completely still. The woman what? Sam's jaw worked, but no words came out. Forget it. No. Clara reached out and took his hand. Sam, the woman what? The words were stuck in his throat. 4 years of keeping quiet, of grieving, of telling himself he would never feel a thing for anyone again. And now here was this woman, this impossible woman, looking at him like he was worth something. The woman he loves, Sam said, his voice rough. That is what I was going to say. The woman he loves. Tears welled up in Clara's eyes. Sam, I know it is too soon. I know you just got free of one man, and the last thing you need is another one laying claim to you. But I cannot help it, Clara. I tried. I tried my best to keep it friendly, to keep it simple. But every single day I wake up thankful that you are here. And every single night I go to sleep scared to death you are going to leave. I am not leaving. You say that now, but I am not leaving. Clara cupped his face with her hands. Sam Bridger, I have spent the last 6 years being told that I am worthless, that no one could ever truly love me, that I am damaged goods, used up, and broken beyond all repair. That is not true. I know that now, and it is because of you. She gently brushed a tear from his cheek. You looked at me when I was half dead and beat so bad you could barely tell I was a person, and you saw something worth saving. You gave me food, you helped me heal, you kept me safe. And not once, not a single time did you ever ask for anything back. I did not do it to get your thanks, I know. That is why it means so much. Clara leaned in and rested her forehead against his. I love you, Sam. I did not think I could ever say those words again. I did not think I could feel them, but I love you. Sam squeezed his eyes shut. Something deep inside him just broke wide open. Something he had kept locked up tight since Emma died, since Sarah left, since he had decided that love was just another name for loss. I am scared, he confessed. Of what? Of losing you. Of caring this much about someone and having them taken away from me again. Clara pulled back just enough to look him in the eyes. I cannot promise you that nothing bad will ever happen again. I cannot promise Thomas will not find some other way to hurt us. But I can promise you this. She kissed him, soft and gentle. I am not going anywhere. Whatever is coming, we will face it together. Together, Sam repeated. He kissed her back. It was gentle at first, and then it got deeper. 4 years of loneliness came pouring out of him, and Clara took it all in and gave back everything she had. When they finally pulled apart, both of them were crying. Look at us, Clara laughed right through her tears. 2 broken people sitting on a porch, acting like we just hit the jackpot. Feels that way to me. Yeah. She rested her head on his shoulder. It does. They sat like that as the sun got higher in the sky. Neither one of them wanted to move. Neither one wanted to break the spell. For the first time in a long, long time, the future felt like something to look forward to instead of something you just had to get through. But that peace was not meant to last. 3 days later, Doc Walsh came riding up to the ranch at a full gallop. "Sam, you have got to come into town right now." Sam was on his feet in an instant. "What is wrong? Those men who came looking for Clara, they never left. They have been shacked up at the boarding house, asking questions." Doc Walsh's face was grim. "This morning, one of them shot the blacksmith's boy." Clara grabbed onto Sam's arm. "What? Why?" "The boy saw them giving a woman a hard time behind the saloon and tried to step in." Doc Walsh shook his head. "He is alive, but just barely. And folks are scared, Sam. Thomas's men have been making threats, saying anyone who gave Clara a hand is going to pay for it." Sam's blood ran cold. "This is all my fault." "This is Thomas's fault," Clara said, her voice fierce. "He could not beat us, so now he is hurting innocent people to try and draw us out." "Well, it is working." Sam snatched his rifle. "I am going." "I am coming with you," Clara said. "Do not you dare argue with me." Her eyes were like steel. "Those people helped me because of you. If they are in trouble, I am not about to sit here while you go face it by yourself." Sam wanted to tell her no. Every part of him was screaming to keep her safe, to keep her hidden away. But he saw the set of her jaw, and he knew she was right. "Fine, but you stay behind me. No heroics. Same goes for you." They rode hard for town. Sam's mind was racing through all the possibilities, and none of them were good. Thomas had left, but his men had stayed behind. That meant Thomas had given them orders, and those orders were clearly meant to make Sam and Clara suffer. Miller's Creek was quiet when they got there, too quiet. The streets were deserted, shutters were drawn tight, like the whole town was holding its breath. Doc Walsh met them at the edge of town. "They are down at the saloon, all 5 of them. The one you shot in the hand is still real sore about it. Where is Joseph?" "I have not seen him, but his horse is over at the livery." So Joseph was somewhere nearby, watching. That was something, at least. Sam swung down from his horse and handed Clara his rifle. "You stay put. If things turn sour, you ride back to the ranch and you do not look back." "Sam, you have to promise me." Clara's jaw was set, but she gave him a nod. Sam started walking toward the saloon. The sound of his boots echoed on the wooden boardwalk. The sun beat down on his shoulders and felt like a heavy weight. He pushed his way through the swinging doors. 5 men looked up from their card game. The one with the bandaged hand, the one Joseph had shot, cracked a smile when he saw Sam. "Well, well, look what the cat dragged in. I heard you have been stirring up trouble, just having a little bit of fun." The man got up slowly, his good hand resting right on his pistol. "Your friend up there in the hills cost me 2 of my fingers. I reckon that is worth at least a few of your bones getting broken. The boy you shot is only 16 years old." And he put his nose where it did not belong. The man just shrugged. "You can consider it a lesson learned." Sam took a step closer. "Here is a lesson for you. Leave this town right now, or the way your hand looks is going to be the very least of your worries." The men all laughed. One of them, a big fellow with a scar running across his face, stood up. "You have got courage, I will give you that much. But there are 5 of us and just one of you, and your Indian friend is not here to save your hide this time." "Are you sure about that?" a voice said from behind them. Joseph stepped right out of the shadows near the back door. He had a knife in each one of his hands. "I am always here," he said in a quiet voice. "You just do not ever see me." The smiles on the men's faces vanished. Sam drew his pistol. "This is your last chance. Ride. Get out! And don't you even think about coming back, or this is going to end with blood in the dust." The leader, the fellow with the wrapped-up hand, glanced at his boys, then at Sam, then over at Joseph. "Thomas told us to make the cowboy hurt," he said. "Told us to break everyone he cares about until he snaps. Well, Thomas ain't here. No, but his money sure is." The man's eyes got cold as a snake's, and we've already been paid. His hand drifted down toward his pistol, but Sam was quicker on the draw. The gunshot roared through the saloon. The leader crumpled to the floor, grabbing his shoulder and hollering, "Joseph!" He moved like a ghost. 2 of the hired guns were down before they even cleared their holsters, his blades finding soft spots with a surgeon's touch. The big ox with the scar on his face made a run at Sam. They crashed right through a poker table, swinging fists like hammers. The man was powerful, a lot more powerful than Sam figured. A fist cracked against Sam's jaw, and his whole world lit up with stars. Sam. It was Clara's voice. She was standing in the doorway, a rifle held steady. Get the hell out of here. The scarred man got both his hands wrapped around Sam's neck. He squeezed. The world started closing in, everything turning gray around the edges. Then another gunshot. The man jolted, looked down at the dark stain spreading across his shirt, and then he just fell. Clara stood there behind him, her little pistol still smoking in her hand. I told you, she said, her voice trembling a bit. We do this thing together. The last of Thomas's crew threw his gun on the floor. I give up. I give up. Don't shoot me. Sam pulled himself up, fighting for every breath. His throat was raw from where that big fella had tried to squeeze the life out of him. Joseph stepped over to the survivors, two wounded men who were eager to surrender. The leader was still on the floor, caterwauling about his shoulder. What do you want me to do with them? Joseph asked. Sam looked over at Clara. She was pale as a sheet and shaking, but her eyes were firm. Take them to the sheriff, she said. Let the law sort 'em out. That sheriff might just be on Thomas's payroll. Then we'll find a lawman who isn't. Clara stepped right over a body without so much as a flinch. I've had my fill of death. I've had my fill of all this violence. These men will see justice, but it won't be from us. Sam wanted to argue. A piece of him wanted to end it right there, to make sure Thomas's men never bothered another soul. But Clara, she was right. Seemed like she always was. You heard the lady? He told Joseph. Take him to the sheriff. Let the town figure out what to do with him. Joseph gave a nod. And if Thomas sends more men, then we'll deal with them too. Sam reached out and took Clara's hand. But not tonight. Tonight, we're going home. They walked right out of that saloon, leaving the mess and the bodies for someone else to clean up. The town was deathly quiet, but Sam could see folks peeking out from their windows, watching. Tomorrow would bring its own share of questions and trouble. But that was for tomorrow. Tonight, they had each other, and right then, that was more than enough. They rode back to the ranch under the stars without a single word. Clara hadn't said anything since they left town, and Sam didn't press her. He knew the heavy price of taking a man's life, even when it was a man who had it coming. When they finally got home, Clara slid off her horse and walked right over to the well. She pumped water over her hands, scrubbing at her skin like she was trying to wash away the memory of it all. Clara, I killed a man. Her voice was empty, like a hollowed-out gourd. I pulled the trigger, and he just died. He was about to kill me. I know. She just kept on scrubbing. I know he was, but I can still feel it, the kick of that pistol in my hand, the look he got on his face when he knew. Sam gently took her hand, making her stop. Look at me. She finally looked up. Her eyes were shiny with tears, but she wasn't crying. Not yet, anyway. What you did in there, that wasn't murder. That was protection. You saved my life. Does that make it right? It makes it necessary. Sam pulled her into a hug. This world ain't as simple as right and wrong, Clara. Sometimes it's just about what you gotta do to survive. And you survived. We both did. Clara finally let go, burying her face in his chest. Her whole body just shook with the sobs she'd been fighting back since that saloon. I don't want to be the kind of person who kills people. You're not. You're the kind of person who stands up for the folks you love. Sam smoothed her hair. Is there a difference? Yeah, there is. They just stood there as the light faded, holding on to each other, while somewhere off, in the distance, a storm was brewing up over the mountains. Sam knew this was far from over. Thomas would get word about what happened. He would send more men, or maybe even come himself, or find some other nasty way to hurt them. But that was a fight for another day. Right now, Clara was alive. He was alive. And for the first time in 4 long years, Sam Bridger felt a flicker of something he hadn't felt in a long, long time. It felt a whole lot like hope. 2 weeks went by without so much as a whisper from Thomas. Clara wasn't sleeping through the night anymore. Every creak of the floorboards, every coyote howl in the distance, had her sitting bolt upright in bed, her hand reaching for the pistol she now kept tucked under her pillow. "He's planning something," she said one morning, wearing a path in the kitchen floor while Sam tried to eat. "Thomas doesn't just quit. He doesn't take losing well. He's out there somewhere right now, figuring out the best way to ruin us. Maybe he got spooked." "Thomas doesn't get spooked. He gets even." Sam pushed his plate away. "Clara, you've hardly touched your food for days. You ain't sleeping. You're just wearing yourself down to a nub waiting for a snake that might not even be in the grass. It'll come. And when it does, we'll handle it. Just like we handled everything else." Clara stopped her pacing and looked at him, the worry etched deep into her face. "How do you do that? Do what? How do you stay so calm after all this?" Sam stood up and walked over to her, taking both her hands in his. "I ain't calm, Clara. I'm just plain tired of living scared." He gave her fingers a little squeeze. "I spent 4 long years terrified of feeling anything at all. Scared to death of caring for somebody just to lose them all over again. Then you came along and I figured out that being scared all the time is a whole lot worse than whatever might be coming. That's easy for you to say." "No, it surely ain't." Sam's voice got a little rough. "I buried my little girl, Clara. I had to watch my own wife turn her back and walk away. I know exactly how bad it can get, but I also know that hiding from life is a long way from actually living it." Tears started to well up in Clara's eyes. "I don't want to lose you. You won't. You can't promise me that. Maybe I can't. But I can promise you I'll fight like hell to keep that promise." He pulled her in close. "Whatever that man is cooking up, we'll face it head on, together. You remember that, right?" "Together," Clara whispered into his chest. They just held each other there in the early morning light. Just two folks holding on to a sliver of hope in a world that had done its best to stomp it out. The letter showed up 3 days later. Joseph brought it. He rode up to the ranch breathing hard, looking like he'd ridden his horse into the ground. This came through the telegraph office over in Miller's Creek. He handed Sam a piece of folded paper. "The telegraph operator figured you ought to see it." Sam read the words on the page. All the color drained from his face. "What is it?" Clara asked. Sam just handed her the letter. It was sent to Thomas Hollister through his lawyers way out in Philadelphia. The message wasn't long. "Business taken care of. Evidence is safe. We should be in Denver. August 15th with federal marshals. Prepare for arrest." Clara's eyes lifted from the paper. "I do not understand. What in the world does this mean?" "It means somebody else got their hands on Thomas before we could." Sam gently took the letter from her. "Federal marshals. Now that means he is in for federal crimes. Something a whole lot bigger than hurting his wife." "Who sent this letter?" "It does not say. But you need to look at this date." Sam tapped the paper. "August 15th. Well, that is tomorrow." A drum started beating inside Clara's chest. "So Thomas is really getting arrested. It surely looks that way." She collapsed into a chair. It felt like her legs just gave up on her. 6 years. She whispered the words. 6 years of living through hell, and now someone I do not even know is the one to finally bring him to justice. Does it really matter who gets it done so long as it gets done? Clara sat with that thought. She thought of all those nights she spent awake, piecing together a plan to escape. All those times she dreamed of justice, of seeing Thomas finally pay for all the pain he caused. She had pictured courtrooms, tearful confessions, the whole world finally seeing the monster he was. She never once dreamed it would all happen without her playing a part. "I have to be there." Sam's head jerked up. "What did you say?" "When they take him into custody? I have to see it with my own eyes." Clara pushed herself to her feet. "I need to watch him fall." "Clara, that is just plain crazy." Denver is a hard 3-day ride from here, and you know Thomas will have his men crawling all over that city. I do not care. Her voice was pure steel. I spent 6 years as his victim. I lived through his fists, his cruelty, and his men trying to hunt me down and kill me. I have earned the right to be there when he loses every last thing. Sam felt 100 arguments rise up in his throat. Every part of him that wanted to protect her screamed to keep her right here where she was safe. But then he saw that look in her eyes. It was the same fire he saw when she stood up to Thomas on this very porch. It was the same fire that made her pull a trigger to save his own life. "All right," he said, letting out a breath. "We will go to Denver. Sam, you do not have to do that. If you are going, then I am going with you." He reached for his hat. "Joseph, can you keep an eye on the ranch?" Joseph gave a slow nod. "For how long?" "A week, maybe 2. It all depends on how things shake out. I will make sure it is still standing when you get back." Joseph turned his gaze to Clara. "That is a brave thing you're about to do. A bit foolish, but brave." "That is the story of my life," Clara replied. They were on the trail in less than an hour, riding hard under the blistering summer sun, and only stopping when the horses were spent. Clara pushed herself past the point of exhaustion, fueled by a deep need that Sam could not quite put a name to. On the second night, they set up camp beside a small creek. Clara had been silent for hours, and the quiet was starting to get to Sam. "You need to talk to me." Clara looked up from the dancing flames she had been staring at. "About what?" "About why you really have to see Thomas get arrested. And do not tell me it is just about seeing justice done." She was quiet for what felt like a very long time. Then she spoke. "When I was married to Thomas, I kept having this one dream over and over again. What kind of dream was it? I dreamed that I was invisible. I do not mean in a figurative sense, I mean I was actually invisible. I could walk right through a room and nobody would see me. I could scream at the top of my lungs and nobody would hear a sound. I could be standing an inch from Thomas's face and he would look right past me like I was nothing but empty air." Sam let her have the silence she needed. "When I would wake up, I would realize that the dream was not far from the truth. I had made myself invisible just to survive. I became small and quiet and easy to forget. The less Thomas ever noticed me, the less he hurt me." Clara pulled her knees up tight against her chest. "I made myself disappear for 6 whole years, Sam. And even when I finally got away, I just kept on disappearing. I went to different towns, used different names, and I was always hiding. You were just trying to stay alive. I was staying invisible." Clara's eyes met his across the fire. "If I do not see Thomas get arrested, if I do not get to watch him pay for what he did while I'm standing right there, real and visible, then some part of me is going to stay that invisible woman forever, that little ghost who was too afraid to even exist." Sam finally understood. This was not about getting even. It was not even really about justice. This was about Clara proving to her own soul that she was real, that she mattered, and that 6 years of being treated like she was nothing had not completely broken her. "All right," he said, his voice soft. "Then we are going to make sure he sees you. We will make sure he knows exactly who was responsible for his downfall." A small smile touched Clara's lips. "It was a fragile thing, but it was real. Thank you for understanding. I do not understand all of it, but I understand what is important." Sam reached over the small campfire and took her hand in his. "You are the bravest woman I have ever known, Clara. And tomorrow, Thomas Hollister is going to learn just how brave you truly are." They rode into Denver on the afternoon of August 15th. The city was bigger and louder than anything Clara had laid eyes on since her time in Philadelphia. The streets were choked with people. The buildings scraped the sky and folks were everywhere. After so many weeks on Sam's quiet ranch, it was all a bit much to take in. "Where are we headed?" she asked him. "To the federal courthouse. If the marshals are the ones making the arrest, that is where they will be taking him." They worked their way through the bustling crowds, following the street signs until they came to a grand stone building with tall columns and flags waving out front. A mob of people had already formed outside, a mix of newspaper reporters, nosy locals, and people who had heard the rumors and wanted to see the show for themselves. "What is all the commotion about?" Sam asked a fellow standing near the front of the pack. "A big-time arrest. Some wealthy man from back east. The talk is he has been paying off half the Senate." The man just shook his head. "They should be bringing him in any second now." Clara felt her heart hammering against her ribs. She started pushing her way forward, ignoring the grumbles from the people she nudged aside. Sam stayed right on her heels, a steadying hand on her arm. And then she saw him. Thomas was getting out of a carriage with a federal marshal on each arm. His hands were bound in iron cuffs. His normally perfect suit was a mess of wrinkles, and his silver hair was out of place. He looked like a man who had aged 10 years in a single night. But his eyes, they were exactly the same. They were still cold, still plotting, and they were scanning the crowd for someone, for her. Their eyes met and locked. Thomas's face twisted into an ugly mask. It was rage, then shock, then pure hatred, all of it flashing across his face in a heartbeat. "You." He lunged in her direction. The marshals held on tight. "You did this to me." Clara did not so much as flinch. She did not take a single step back. She just stood there, completely visible, completely present, and looked at the man who had made her life a nightmare for 6 long years. "No, Thomas." Her voice was as calm as a quiet lake. "You did this to yourself. I will kill you for this. I will find a way, Clara. I swear to God I will. That is quite enough." One of the marshals gave him a hard yank. "Sir, I think you have got enough trouble for one day." Thomas just kept on screaming. He hurled threats and curses and promised he would get his revenge. The crowd just watched, a mix of horror and fascination on their faces. Clara watched too. She watched until they finally dragged him through the big doors, until his voice was gone, until the doors slammed shut behind him. Then she turned around and walked away. Sam caught up to her about a block down the street. He could see she was trembling. "Clara, I thought I would feel something different." Her voice sounded empty. "I thought seeing him brought low like that would fix some broken part of me. It did not. I do not know." Clara stopped walking and looked up at him, her eyes filled with confusion. "I spent all this time hating him, dreaming of this very moment. And now that it is over, all I feel is empty." Sam guided her into a quiet alley away from the prying eyes of the street. He gently cupped her face between his hands. "Now you listen to me. What you are feeling is perfectly normal. You spent 6 years building up walls around yourself just to survive. Walls like that do not just tumble down in a single day just because the danger is gone. So when do they come down? They come down in their own good time. They come down when you are ready for them to." Sam leaned in and kissed her on the forehead. "But you do not have to tear them down all by yourself. I am here with you, Clara. No matter how long it takes, I am here." Clara let her eyes close. She allowed herself to lean against him. "What if I am never ready? What if I am just broken for good?" "You are not broken, you are healing. There is a big difference. You keep telling me that, and I will keep saying it because it keeps being true." They just stood there together in that dusty alley as the whole city moved on around them. They were two people from completely different worlds, thrown together by violence, but now held together by something a whole lot stronger than fear. "I want to go home," Clara said after a while. "Back to the ranch, back to our home." She looked up and met his eyes. "That is, if you will still have me." A real smile spread across Sam's face. It was the first one he had truly felt in more years than he could count. "I will have you, Clara, for as long as you are willing to stay." The ride back home took 3 days. They went slower this time, with no desperate rush pushing them onward. They talked more than they had since the day they first met, sharing stories about their pasts, their fears, and their hopes for what might come next. Clara told Sam all about her parents, how her mother passed away when she was young, and how her father had raised her all by himself, teaching her how to hunt and shoot straight and stand on her own. "My daddy would have liked you," she said. "He always told me he wanted me to marry a man who'd see me as his partner, not as something to own. Sounds like a smart fella. He was. Right up until the consumption claimed him." Clara's voice hitched. "I was only 18 when he passed, all alone in the world. That's why Thomas found it so easy to trick me. He promised me safety, a family, all the things I had lost. You were in a tough spot. He took advantage of that. None of that is on you. I know, I finally know that." Clara reached out and put her hand on his. "But meeting you is what made me believe it deep down." Sam told her about Emma, about the feverish dreams and the desperate prayers and the awful, heavy silence after her little body finally went still. "I used to go talk to her," he admitted, after she was gone. "I would sit right there by her grave and tell her about my day, like she could somehow still hear me. Maybe she could, maybe she could." A muscle in Sam's jaw jumped. "Sarah said I was losing my mind. Said I was holding on to a ghost. That's the reason she left. She was wrong. But was she? I spent 4 years on that ranch all by myself, talking to a little girl who was gone instead of trying to build a new life. Maybe I was crazy." "You were grieving." Clara squeezed his hand. "That is not the same thing. And you were not holding on to a ghost. You were holding on to love. There is nothing crazy about that." Sam looked at her. This woman had walked through fires he could not even imagine, and she had every reason to be bitter and broken and closed off to the world. And yet here she was, offering him a kindness he was sure he did not deserve. "How did I ever find you?" he asked softly. "You did not find me. You saved me." A small smile touched Clara's lips. "There is a big difference." They got back to the ranch at sunset on the 4th day. Joseph was waiting there on the porch. He rose to his feet when he saw them, and something in his expression made Sam's stomach tighten up. "What is wrong?" "We had visitors while you were gone." Joseph's voice was completely flat. 3 of them dressed in city clothes. Said they worked for Thomas Hollister's lawyers. Clara turned pale. "But Thomas is in jail. They did not come for you." Joseph looked directly at Sam. "They came for him." Sam swung down from his horse slowly. "What do you mean?" Joseph held out a folded-up document. "They left this. Said you have 30 days to respond." Sam took the paper and opened it. He read it once. Then he read it again. "What is it?" Clara asked. "Thomas is suing me." Sam's voice sounded far away, even to his own ears. "For assault, kidnapping, and destruction of property. He is claiming I held you against your will and that I attacked him for no good reason." "That is insane. He attacked us." "It does not matter. He has lawyers. I have got a ranch and a bad name." Sam crumpled the paper into a ball in his fist. "He cannot break us with guns, so he is using the law to do it instead." Clara took the document from him, smoothed it out, and read it with care. "Sam, this is serious. He is asking for enough in damages to take the ranch, the horses, absolutely everything." "I know. Can he win?" "I do not know, but he has got money and powerful friends. I have got none of that." Clara's jaw set hard. That look returned to her eyes. It was pure steel, pure determination, the very same fire that had faced down Thomas on this same porch. "Then we fight." "How?" "I cannot afford lawyers." "You do not need lawyers. You need evidence." Clara held up the paper. "Thomas is claiming you attacked him without any cause. But we have witnesses. Doc Walsh, the people in town, every person who saw what his men did. It is their word against his, and my word." Clara stepped in closer. "Sam, I am his wife. I know things about Thomas that could completely destroy his case, Business dealings, names of witnesses, every single thing he ever said or did when he believed nobody was listening. You would testify against him in a courtroom? I would do more than that. Clara's voice grew hard as stone. I would tell the whole world what he really is. Every beating, every threat, every time he made me feel like I was nothing. Let him sue you for kidnapping. I will tell the judge I ran to you because you were the first man who ever made me feel safe. Sam stared at her. Clara, if you do that, everyone will know. Everything that happened to you, I do not care anymore. Clara took his face between her hands. I spent 6 years hiding, feeling ashamed, and pretending that everything was fine because the truth was just too ugly to say out loud. I am done hiding, Sam. If telling my story is what it takes to protect you, then the whole world can hear it. Sam felt something inside his chest crack wide open. This woman, this unbelievable, brave, broken woman, was ready to lay all her darkest secrets bare just to save him. I do not deserve you, he said, his voice rough. Maybe not, but you have got me anyway. Clara kissed him. We do this together, remember? Together. Sam agreed. The next month was the hardest one of Sam's entire life. Lawyers came and went from the ranch. They took down statements. Sam had to go through every single moment of finding Clara, saving her and fighting Thomas's men. He had to explain every decision, every bullet fired, every choice he made. But it was worse for Clara. She was on the stand for 3 days. She told complete strangers in suits about beatings that had broken her ribs, about nights she spent hiding in closets, and about the time Thomas had held her head under the water until she almost drowned. Sam sat right beside her through it all. He held her hand when her voice trembled, and he held her even tighter when the lawyers tried to paint her as a liar, a manipulator, a wife who had run off from her husband for no good reason. She never once backed down, never even flinched. Even when they brought up things Sam never knew about, like a miscarriage Thomas had caused, with a kick to her belly or a scar on her back from a belt buckle, Clara just kept talking, kept telling her truth. When it was finally over, she collapsed into Sam's arms and cried for 3 straight hours. It is done, he whispered into her hair. You did it. It is all done. It does not feel done. It feels like I just tore myself open and let the whole world see what is inside. What is inside is strength, Clara. Pure, raw strength. It does not feel like strength. It feels like shame. Then let me help you carry it. Sam held her closer. You do not have to feel everything all by yourself anymore. The judge's decision came 2 weeks later. He found in Sam's favor. Not only did he throw out Thomas's lawsuit, but he also recommended that federal prosecutors investigate additional charges, including attempted murder, based on what Clara had said about being left in the desert. Thomas Hollister, who was already facing charges for corruption, was now looking at the possibility of spending the rest of his days in a prison cell. Sam read the official paper out loud to Clara on their porch. When he was done, she was quiet for a long while. It is really over. It is really over. Clara stood up slowly. She walked to the edge of the porch and looked out over the land that had become her home. I keep waiting to feel happy, she said in a low voice. Everyone tells me I won, that we won. But I do not feel like a winner. I just feel worn out. Sam came and stood next to her. That is because winning a fight is not the same as healing from it. You survived. You told your truth. You protected the people you love. But surviving takes a piece of you that does not just grow back overnight. Does it ever come back? Yeah, it does. Sam took her hand in his. I lost Emma 4 years ago. For the longest time, I figured I would never feel anything but sorrow again. Then you came along, and I realized that grief is not the opposite of love. It is a part of it. You can carry them both at the same time. Clara turned to look at him. When did you get so smart? About the same time a half-dead woman called me a freight train and told me I snore. Clara laughed. The sound was sudden and unexpected. And it was the most beautiful thing Sam had ever heard. I love you, she said. It was the first time she had said it since that awful night in town. The first time the words sounded like freedom instead of fear. "I love you too," Sam said. "Sam. And I reckon I'm going to keep on saying it until you truly believe me." "I believe you." Clara moved into his arms. "I think I believed you the very first time you promised you would not hurt me. I just did not know how to trust that feeling yet. And now I am learning." She looked up at him with those gray-green eyes that had been in his dreams since the moment he found her nearly dead in the dust. "Teach me the rest." Sam kissed her, gentle at first, and then deeper. A promise and a question and an answer all mixed into one. "I have got time," he said against her lips. "We have got all the time in the world." The sun set behind them, painting the Colorado sky with shades of gold and deep purple. Two people stood on a porch holding on to each other as the last of the past's long shadows finally disappeared. Tomorrow there would be chores to do, a ranch to run, and a life to build. But tonight, there was only this, only them, only the quiet knowledge that no matter what came next, they would face it together. The divorce papers showed up on a Tuesday morning. Clara held the envelope in her hands for a good long while before she opened it. Sam watched her from the other side of the kitchen table, just waiting. "It is official," she said at last. Her voice sounded strange, kind of hollow. "I am no longer Clara May Hollister. How does that feel?" "I do not know." She laid the papers on the table. "I thought I would feel free, but mostly I just feel like I do not know who I am anymore." Sam reached across the table and took her hand. "You are Clara, the woman who survived, the woman who fought back, the woman I love. That is who I am to you. But who am I to myself?" Clara gently pulled her hand away. "I have been Thomas's wife for 6 years. Before that, I was my father's daughter. I do not know how to just be me, then figure it out, take all the time and what she would need." Clara looked at him, and her eyes held a complicated mix of emotions. "What if figuring all that out means I have to leave?" The words hit Sam like a punch, and his heart seemed to stop. Leave? Not for good, just for a while. Clara stood up and walked over to the window. "I have never really been on my own, Sam. I have never had the chance to discover who I am without having someone else tell me. First it was my father, then it was Thomas, and now it is you. I am not trying to define who you are. I know you are not. But it is happening anyway, without you even meaning for it to." She turned back to face him. "Every single time you protect me, every time you make a choice for the both of us, I just let you. I let you because it feels easier. Because I am so used to having someone else be the one in charge. Clara, I am not Thomas. I know you are not." Her voice trembled. "And that is what makes this so incredibly hard. You are kind and you are good and you are everything that Thomas was not. But I am still doing the exact same thing I have always done, just disappearing into somebody else's life instead of trying to build one of my own." Sam sat there perfectly still. He wanted to argue with her, to tell her she was wrong, that what they had was different. But he could see the truth of it in her eyes. He saw her fear that she had only traded one cage for another, even if this new one had soft velvet walls. "What do you need?" he asked, his voice low. "I do not know yet. Maybe I just need some time, or maybe some space." Clara's eyes began to fill with tears. "Maybe I just need the chance to prove to myself that I can stand on my own 2 feet before I make the choice to stand beside someone else. And if I wait for you, I'm not asking you to wait for me." He knew she was not asking. Sam went to her. "I'm telling you, I'll wait. Doesn't matter how long it takes." Clara just shook her head. "That's not fair to you. Fair ain't got a thing to do with it. I spent 4 years just waiting to feel like I was alive again. Then you showed up and reminded me what it felt like to be living." He gently cupped her face in his hands. "If you need to go off and find yourself, then you go on. But don't you for a second think I'm going to stop loving you just because you're not right here." Clara shut her eyes tight. The tears just spilled down her face. I don't deserve a man like you. That's a funny thing. I'm always thinking the same thing about you. She let out a little laugh through her tears. It was a broken sound, but it was real. I'm not leaving for good, she said. I just need... I don't rightly know what I need, but I know I have to find it. Where will you go? There's a hospital in Denver. They need nurses. I thought maybe I could. She stopped talking. It sounds foolish when I say it out loud. It doesn't sound foolish at all. It sounds like you're remembering the woman you were before Thomas. Clara looked up at him. You really don't mind? I mind something fierce. I want you right here with me every single day. Sam kissed her on the forehead. But I'd rather see you whole than have you close. If going to Denver is what'll make you whole again, then that's exactly where you ought to be. And if you figure out you don't need me, that you can be happy all on your own, well, then I'll be happy for you. Sam's voice was thick with emotion. And I'll likely spend the rest of my days missing you something fierce. Clara kissed him then. It was a hard, desperate kiss, like she was trying to burn the memory of him into her soul. I love you, she whispered right against his lips. I know. I'm coming back. I'll be right here. She was gone by the next morning. Sam stood on the porch watching her ride off until she was just a tiny dot against the big sky. Then he went back inside and sat down in the quiet kitchen, wondering if he had just made the biggest damn mistake of his entire life. The weeks that came after were the toughest Sam had been through since he lost Emma. He worked himself down to the bone every single day, just trying to fill the awful quiet that Clara left behind her. He mended fences that were perfectly fine. He broke horses that were already gentle. He did anything and everything to keep his hands moving and his mind from wandering. Joseph would ride over about once a week to see how he was getting on. You look like you've been rode hard and put away wet, Joseph said one evening. Feel worse. She's coming back. Maybe. Sam just stared into the flames of the fireplace. Or maybe she'll get out there and figure out she's a whole lot better off without me. She won't. How can you know that? Joseph was quiet for a good long while. When I was a young man, I fell in love with a woman from another tribe. My people said it was forbidden. Her people said the same. Everyone told us we had to forget each other. What happened? She left. She went back to her own people. I thought I'd lost her for good. Joseph's old, weathered face softened with the memory. 2 winters later, she came back. Said she tried to forget me, but her heart wouldn't let her. We were married for 40 years before she passed on. And that's supposed to make me feel better? It is supposed to remind you that love does not just die because things get hard. If Clara is meant to be here, she will come back. And if she does not, Joseph shrugged his shoulders, then she was never truly meant to stay here. Sam was not sure which one of those possibilities scared him more. 3 months went by. Clara sent letters, just short little notes at first, but then they got longer. She wrote about the hospital, about the sick folks she was helping, and about the new friends she was making. She told him that the nightmares were coming less often, and the mornings were not as hard as they used to be. She did not say when she was coming home. Sam did his best not to dwell on it. Then one afternoon, Doc Walsh came riding up to the ranch holding a telegram. This came for you. I figured you would want to see it as soon as possible. Sam tore it open. Arriving on Saturday. Stop. I have something to tell you. Stop. Clara. Saturday was just 2 days away. Sam did not sleep a wink either night. He spent all his time cleaning up the cabin, washing his one good shirt, and trying to make the place look like somewhere a woman might actually want to stay. On Saturday morning, he saw a cloud of dust coming up from the east. He walked out onto the porch and just waited. Clara rode up to the house slowly. She looked like a different person, healthier, stronger, and more sure of herself than he had ever seen. The dark circles under her eyes were gone. The worry she had always carried in her shoulders seemed to have just melted away. She swung down from her horse and just stood there for a moment looking at him. "Hey," she said. "Hey." A long quiet settled over them. Sam was stuck, not knowing whether to pull her in for a hug, kiss her, or just stand there like a post. Clara made it easy for him, walking right up and looping her arms around his neck. "I have missed you," she whispered. "Missed you too," his voice came out all gravelly. "Every single day." She leaned back to get a good look at his face. "You look worn out. You have not been getting much rest." "Neither have I." Clara took both of his hands in hers. "Sam, there is something I have got to tell you." His heart seized up. It was about the baby. "I am pregnant." The whole world just went still. Sam just stared at her, trying to wrestle with the words. "Pregnant?" "I am about 4 months along. I did not even know myself until I got to Denver." Clara's eyes searched his. "I know this is a game changer for us. I know we never talked about—" "Is it mine?" The question slipped out before he could bite his tongue. Clara looked like he had slapped her. "Of course, it is yours. Thomas and I, we had not been together like that." She shook her head. "It is yours, Sam, I'm sure of it." Sam's legs gave out from under him, and he dropped right onto the porch steps. A child, his child. After Emma, after losing it all, after 4 long years of empty quiet. "Sam," Clara's voice was full of concern, "please say something." He gazed up at her, this woman who stumbled into his life nearly dead and all busted up, who had clawed her way back and was now carrying his baby. "I am going to be a daddy," he whispered. "That is right. We are having a baby." "Yes." Clara dropped to her knees before him. "I understand this was not part of our plan. I know we agreed to take things slow. If you are not ready for this." Sam cut her off with a kiss. It was the kind of kiss a man gives when he has been underwater too long and finally gets air. He kissed her until neither one of them could catch their breath. "I am ready," he told her when they finally parted. "Clara, I have been ready from the very second I found you." Tears just poured down her cheeks. "Are you sure? Truly?" He rested his hand on her belly. "I figured my world ended when Emma passed. I never thought I would have a family again. And now you will." Clara placed her hand over his. "We will." They stayed right there on the porch while the morning sun got higher in the sky. Just 2 souls who had pulled each other from the ruins of their pasts, building something brand new out of the broken parts. "So," Sam finally spoke, "I take it this means you are putting your roots down here." "I suppose it does." "Are you sure you found what you went looking for in Denver?" "I learned that I can make it on my own, that I am tough enough to decide my own path and build a life for myself." Clara gave a little smile. "And I also learned that I am choosing you, not because I have to in order to survive, but because life is a whole lot sweeter with you in it." "That is the only thing I ever needed to hear." "I know. I just had to be sure I meant every word." The wedding was a small affair. They had it right there at the ranch with only a few close friends. Doc was there, and Walsh, Joseph with his family, and some of the townspeople who had stood by them against Thomas. The preacher from Miller's Creek came over and spoke some words Sam hardly registered. He was too busy staring at Clara. She had on a plain white dress the woman from the boarding house helped her sew. She had wildflowers tucked in her hair, and you could just start to see the baby bump. To Sam, she was the prettiest sight he had ever laid eyes on. "Do you, Samuel Bridger, take this woman to be your lawfully wedded wife?" "I surely do." "And do you, Clara, take this man to be your lawfully wedded husband?" Clara looked straight into his soul. "I do." "Then by the power given to me, I now pronounce you husband and wife." Sam kissed his new wife as their friends hollered and clapped. Joseph let off a round from his rifle into the sky, which made Clara jump and then laugh. "Well, you are stuck with me now," she teased when they finally separated. "That is the best kind of stuck a man could ask for." Later that night, when all the guests had gone home and a peaceful quiet fell over the ranch, Sam and Clara sat out on the porch, just watching the stars begin to pop out. "I would like to name her Emma," Clara said out of the blue. Sam felt the air leave his lungs. "You mean the baby?" "If we have a girl," Clara reached for his hand. "I know it might be painful for you, but I want our little girl to carry on that name, to carry a piece of what you lost into the future." Sam could not find any words. His throat felt like it was closing up. "If you would rather not, I want to." His voice was hoarse. "There is nothing I want more." Clara rested her head on his shoulder. "And if it is a boy, we will name him after your daddy." "William." A smile touched Clara's lips. "He would have liked that. He would have liked seeing you happy. That is all any good father ever wants for his little girl." A comfortable quiet settled between them as the day's heat gave way to the cool of the evening. After all they had survived, the brutality, the terror, the heartache, a peaceful moment like this felt like it could not be real. "Sam?" "Yeah?" "Do you ever wonder how things might have gone if you had not come across me that day?" "Sometimes." "What do you reckon would have happened?" Sam thought for a moment. "I suppose I would have just kept on the way I was, working myself to the bone, sleeping by myself, just waiting for my time to come without ever truly living." "And what about me?" "You would have perished out in that desert, or maybe some other fella would have rescued you." He turned his head to meet her gaze. "But I am mighty glad it was me. I am glad I was the one to find you." "Me too." Clara gave him a gentle kiss. "You handed me my life back, Sam, and now you have given me a brand new future. You did the exact same for me. So we are even. We are a lot more than even. We are together." Clara took his hand and placed it on her belly again. "All three of us." Just then, Sam felt a little kick against his hand, a tiny little nudge, like the wings of a butterfly. His daughter, his own family, his second go at life. "I love you, Clara Bridger." "I love you too, Samuel Bridger," she grinned. "Now why do you not take me to bed? Your wife is feeling weary." Sam chuckled and helped her stand up. They went into the house side by side, shutting the door on all the bad memories and opening it to all the good days ahead. 4 months after that, Emma Rose Bridger came into the world. She had her mama's stormy gray-green eyes and her daddy's determined chin. She could holler like a bobcat when her belly was empty and slept like a little cherub when it was full. The first time Sam held her, tears just rolled down his cheeks without stopping. "Well, hello there, little darling," he said in a low voice. "I am your paw, and I'm going to spend every day I have left making sure you are always safe and happy and know how much you are loved." From the bed, Clara watched them, worn clear out but glowing with joy. "She is perfect. She favors you. She has got your scowl." Sam let out a laugh. "That is not a scowl. That is her thinking hard." "If you say so." He carried the baby over to Clara and gently placed Emma in her mother's arms. The three of them were finally together. "We did it," Clara whispered. "We made ourselves a family." "We made ourselves a life," Sam said, and he kissed them both. "The best thing I ever did was stumble upon you, Clara. And the best thing I ever did was let you find me." Outside, the Colorado sun peeked over the mountains, splashing the whole world with colors of gold and pink. That old ranch, which had been so quiet for 4 long years, was now alive with new noises. The cry of a newborn, the gentle song of a mother, and the soft laughter of a father. The woman, who was brutalized and left to die in the dust, had discovered more than just how to stay alive. She had found a place to call home. She had found a true love, and she had found her own true self. And the cowboy who had saved her realized that in pulling her from the brink, she had been the one to truly save him right back. Some folks say stories are supposed to end with a happily ever after. This one, though, it ended with something even better. It ended with two shattered souls who came to understand that being broken is not how the story has to finish. This content was carefully researched, developed, and manually edited by our team to deliver meaningful stories with valuable life lessons. Every narrative is crafted to entertain, inspire, and empower our audience. We believe that great stories can change lives, and we are committed to bringing you content that matters. Thank you for being part of our community.